Hello, it's Sonia here with Pretty Stitch. Welcome to my channel. If this is your first time joining me, I'm so happy to have you here. So today we are going to be making a shawl, and for this project I am going to be using my G hook or 4.25mm hook, and the yarn I'm using is this beautiful Knit Picks Chroma fingering yarn that I recently got from Goodwill of all places, out of this yarn bag. So here is the label of this yarn, and its fingering weight has 396 yards, and it is made out of 70% wool and 30% nylon. And I think it's going to be really pretty with this project. I'm really excited about using this yarn. I have eyed up this yarn for years on their website. I just love the colors, but I really didn't have an excuse to buy it, just to buy it. So when I found it in that bag, that was such a happy surprise. So the nice thing with this shawl project is really you could use pretty much any hook size, any yarn that you have. So if you don't like using finer yarn, you can definitely use heavier yarn. Just choose your hook size according to your yarn choice. So why don't we get started? So to get started, we are going to chain 4. So I have 4 chains, and then in my 4th chain from my hook, I'm going to work 2 double crochet. And that skipped chain 3 will count as a double crochet stitch. And this shawl is made up of shell stitches. I absolutely adore shell stitches. They are one of my favorite crochet stitches. And they are super pretty in shawls. Okay, so we are going to chain 2. And we're going to work 3 double crochet in that same chain there. So we're packing in a lot of stitches in that one chain, but it's okay. We're getting started here. So our first couple rows are the setup rows, and then we just keep going with this pattern. It's a pretty simple repeat, and there will be some type of edging. I haven't thought of the edging yet. I just was playing around with stitches. I really wanted to make a shawl with this yarn, so I was playing around with stitches and came up with this one. And it's actually a stitch we'll be doing from, I used to have a series called Stitch of the Week, and this stitch is pulled from that, and I incorporate it into this shawl. Okay, so that is row 1 here, and we have made our shell. So now we are going to chain 8 for row 2. So I have 8 chains on my hook, and this 8 chains is going to consist of a double crochet and a chain 5 space. So now what we're going to do is we're going to work a front post double crochet around the double crochet closest to that chain 2 space there. So we're skipping the first 2, 1, 2 double crochet, and we're working that front post double crochet around that next. And if you've never worked post stitches, this is a post stitch. I can link a tutorial that goes over post stitches. Post stitches create texture, and that's what we want out of this particular shawl. So now what we're going to do is we are going to continue. This is part of our shell. We're going to work 2 double crochet in that chain 2 space. So it's still going to be that 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet, but now we're incorporating part of that into post stitches, using post stitches. Okay, so now we have our 3 double crochet. Now we're going to chain 2, and we're going to work the other half of the shell. Then we're working 2 double crochet in that chain 2 space. And now we are working a front post double crochet around the next double crochet. And it creates a 3D effect. I think this stitch was called the 3D shell stitch because it raises it up. There are other, I have another 3D shell stitch pattern too. I just love shell stitches. Okay, so let's finish up row 2. So now we're going to chain 5. So there is our chain 5, and we're going to double crochet on top of that chain 3 because that counts as a double crochet. Now, if that's really hard, like let's say you're using thread, you could just double crochet on top of that double crochet instead of the chain 3. It's not really, I don't think it's going to really affect the look of the shawl too much. And here we go. This is row 2. And the nice thing with this stitch pattern, the shawl will be reversible. So there is row 2. So let's begin row 3. So row 3, we're going to chain 3 and turn our work. Now we're going to work a shell in this chain 5 space. So we're working 3 double crochet. We're going to chain 2. And we're working 3 double crochet back in that space. So now we are going to go and work the 3D shell stitch. So we're skipping the next 2 double crochet, working that front post double crochet around the next stitch. And we're going to work 2 double crochet in that chain 2 space. And now we're going to chain 2 and work 2 double crochet in that chain 2 space. And now we're going to work our front post double crochet around the next double crochet. And we're going to work our shell around that next. This is our chain 8, but we're going to turn it into a chain 5 and a double crochet. So let's work this shell first. So it's 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet. Okay, so now we need to turn it into a double crochet. So we're going to work a double crochet on top of that chain 3. So you're just going to count from the bottom 1, 2, and 3, and then working your chain however you like, pop in that double crochet. And now we have created that double crochet there for row 3. So let's begin row 4, which will be the start of our repeat. So we're going to chain 8 and turn our work. So we've chained 8, and we're going to work our shell stitch in the next shell here. So we're working that 3D shell stitch. We're going to work that front post double crochet, so skipping the next 2 and working that front post double crochet. Now we work the 2 double crochet in the chain 2 space. And we're going to chain 2 and work 2 double crochet and a front post double crochet. Okay, so what we're going to want to do for the rest of this pattern is you want to know where the center of your shawl is, which is really easy. It is that first shell that we worked. So you want to know where the center chain 2 space is. So this is the first shell, that is the center. So every shell stacked on top of that is the center one. And when you get to the center one, you want, right before you get to it, you want to chain 5. So when you've worked your last 3D shell before your center chain 2 space, you want to chain 5. So this is the repeat, but I'm going to work a few more rows because then it's a little easier to understand when you see it more, larger. Okay, so we've chained 5 before our center chain 2 space. Now we're going to work that 3D shell stitch. Oops, not sure what happened there. Let's do it right. Okay, so now we have worked the 3D shell stitch in that center chain 2 space, so now we need to chain 5. And now we're going to work our 3D shell stitch in the next one. And now we're going to chain 5. And now we want to double crochet on top of that chain 3. And here is row 4. So row 4 is technically going to be the repeat, but I want to show you the repeat when we get to row 6 because I think it'll just be a little easier to understand because we'll have a little bit more shell stitches going on. Alright, so let's begin row 5. So we're going to chain 3 and turn our work. And now we want to work our shell stitch in this chain 5 space. So that is our 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet. And now we work our 3D shell in the next stitch. And now we are at our next chain 5 space, so we're going to work that shell stitch in there, which is the 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet. And now we're back to our center, chain 2 space, our center shell, and we're going to work a 3D shell in there. And now we're at our next chain 5 space, so we work a shell in that, 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet. And now we work a shell, or 3D shell stitch in the next stitch. And we're at our last chain 5 space, so we work our shell in there, 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet. And now we work a double crochet on top of this chain 3. So 1, 2, and 3. Because that chain 8 consists of a double crochet and a chain 5 space. So working on top of that chain 3 creates that double crochet stitch. So there we go with row 5. Okay, so these were our setup rows, and now rows 6 and 7 are going to be the repeat for the rest of the pattern because we want this to get a lot bigger. All right, so we are going to chain 8 and turn our work for row 6. And we're going to work a 3D shell in the next shell there. And now what we do is we're going to repeat working our 3D shell stitches until we get to our center 3D shell right here, or our center chain 2 space, which is again real easy because it's the very first one we made, and we just keep stacking shells on top of it. So we just keep working our 3D shell stitch till we get there. Okay, so now we are at our 3D shell stitch, the center one right here. So when you get there, so you're going to be working a whole bunch of 3D shell stitches as this gets bigger until you get to your center one. Then we're going to work our chain 5. And now we go back and work that 3D shell stitch in that center one. So this is the first half of this row, and then we'll do the same thing, but it'll be opposite for the second half. Opposite, but not, sort of. I'm probably not making any sense. Okay, so we've completed that 3D shell stitch in that center stitch. Now we work a chain 5 because we want it to look the same as the other side we just did. And now we go back to working our 3D shell stitches till we get to our last one. So I'm working my last 3D shell stitch. Okay, so I've worked my last 3D shell stitch, so now to complete the row, we're going to chain 5 and double crochet on top of that chain 3. So there it is, and we're going to work that double crochet, and then row 6 is all done. And then row 7, we're going to chain 3, turn our work. And what you do is we work that shell stitch in that chain 5 space. So 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet. And now we are at our first, which will be our first 3D shell stitch here. So we need to work that 3D shell stitch in the next one. And we're going to continue to work our 3D shell stitches until we get to our next chain 5 space. Okay, so I'm at my next chain 5 space, so that's the one that's before that center 3D shell. So we're now in the chain 5 space. We work a regular shell, which is the 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet. And now we continue to work 3D shell in the next shell. And now we're at our next chain 5 space, so we are going to work that shell stitch in there, 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet. So I'm going to keep going, working down the end till I get to the end here, and I will meet you back. Okay, so I reached the end of row 7 here where I worked that shell stitch and that chain 5, and then to complete the row we're going to work on top of the chain 3 because we need to create that double crochet. So again, counting from the bottom, 3 chains, and then working that final double crochet. So here we go, and already I'm just loving this colorway. I think it's really, really pretty. So you're going to be repeating rows 6 and 7, and this shawl is going to be getting a lot bigger is what we want. And I'm not sure if we're going to end on a row 6 or row 7 before we work the border. I will let you know on the screen. You'll know right away. I still need to figure that out. Okay, so here we go is my shawl. I worked 31 rows, so I think it looks really nice, especially with this yarn. It's super pretty. So now we're going to get started on the edging here. So to get started, this would be row 32. We're going to chain 3 and turn our work. And we're going to work 5 double crochet right in that stitch there, that same stitch. Okay, so we have our 5 double crochet, and that chain 3 will count as a double crochet, so we actually have 6. So what we're going to do is we're going to single crochet right in that next stitch, and now we're at our chain 2 space. So our chain 2 space, we're going to work 5 double crochet. So this is going to be another version of a shell stitch. So we have 5 stitches. So now we're going to single crochet in this space here in between our shells. So here is 3 double crochet here, and here is the next 3 double crochet. So we're going to single crochet in that space, and this is our repeat. We're going to work 5 double crochet in the next chain 2 space, get some more yarn there, we go. And now we're going to single crochet in that space in between the shells, and then we're going to repeat that all the way across. And then when you get to the other side, let's find the other, so here we go, here is the other side. So we're going to single crochet in this last space. You're going to work your shell, and then in your second to last double crochet you're going to work a single crochet, and then you're going to work 6 double crochet in this chain on top of that chain 3 there. So you can see that a little better. So I'm going to go do that all the way across, and I will meet you back at the end of row 32. Alright, so I have finished up row 32. So at the end I had worked in my final chain 2 space, I worked my shell, that 5 double crochet, and then I worked a single crochet in the second to the last stitch, and then I worked a shell in the last stitch, actually, where I worked 6 double crochet in that last stitch to complete row 32. So let's get ready for row 33. So we are going to chain 3 and turn our work, Now we're going to work a V-stitch, and our V-stitch, we're going to go right back in that same stitch. We're going to work a double crochet, chain 2, double crochet in that stitch. And now we're going to skip, so we're going to skip 2 double crochet, so 1, 2, and then in the next one we're going to work another shell, but we're going to make a larger shell. We're going to work 7 double crochet instead of 5. Okay, so I have my larger shell of 7 double crochet, and now we're going to work in that single crochet that we made. So there's that single crochet. We're going to work a V-stitch in there. So it's going to be double crochet, chain 2, double crochet for that V-stitch. And we're starting our repeat now. So we're going to skip 2 double crochet. We're going to work that large shell in the next one. So just think of it as you're working that shell in that center stitch of the 5 double crochet from the previous row. So I'm just working 7 double crochet, and then we're going to work that V-stitch in that next single crochet. So double crochet, chain 2, double crochet. So we're just going to repeat this all the way across, and then when you get to the end of your row, so here is the end of my row here. So when you get to the end, you're working your V-stitch in that last single crochet. Then you're going to work the 7 double crochet, that large shell in that center stitch, and then in that very last stitch on top of that chain 3, we are going to work a V-stitch and a double crochet just so that it matches what we did here. So I'm going to go do that and I will meet you back. Okay, so I have finished up row 33 here. So here is the end of the row. I worked that larger shell of 7 double crochet, and then in that very last double crochet, the V-stitch and the double crochet. So let's begin row 34. So we're going to chain 3, turn our work, and then in the middle of that V-stitch there, we are going to, it's at chain 2 space, we're going to work another V-stitch. So double crochet, chain 2, double crochet. And then in the center of this shell, so that would be in that 4th double crochet, we're going to work another larger shell of 7 double crochet. My yarn is tangled up here in my shawl. Let me straighten her out. Okay, there we go. I was getting caught on something. So we're working 7 double crochet. So here's the 7 double crochet. So that is going to be the repeat. So you're going to work your 7 double crochet and then your V-stitch in the next V-stitch. And we're going to do this all the way across. So skipping that 3 double crochet and then working this 7 in the next one, so just in the middle. So I'm going to keep going here, and then when you get to the end of your row, so let's find the end of that row there. So when you get to the end of your row here, so you're going to work your 7 double crochet on top of this guy. Then in this last V-stitch, you'll work another V-stitch, and then you're just going to double crochet on top of that chain 3 space to finish up the row. So I'm going to keep going here and I will meet you back. Okay, so here we go. I finished row 34. So if you want to have a much wider edging, you can just keep repeating row 34 until we get our last row. So I'm going to try to do that. I'm not sure if I have enough yarn to work another row 34 before we get to our last edging row, but I'm going to give it a try, and so I'm going to meet you back. So to begin, what you would do is you would chain 3 and then just work your V-stitch in that chain 2 space. And then we work our shell in the center stitch. So I'm going to keep going and I'll see if I have enough yarn and I'll meet you back. Okay, so I finished up row 35. I had enough. So I'm going to work one more row. Again, if you want your edging a lot wider, you could just keep going, working row 34, just repeating that, and then you would work your final row, which we are on now. And I am definitely playing yarn chicken with this, so I hope that I have enough to finish this last row, because I really am trying to use every last drop of this yarn because it is so beautiful and I don't want to waste a single bit of it, so I really want to try to maximize it. So let's begin row 36 for me, but this will be the last row. So we're going to chain 1 and turn our work. So in that first stitch, we're going to work a double crochet, going to chain 2, going to double crochet right back in that stitch. So we're just creating like a little decorative nub there. And now we're going to chain 5. And we're going to single crochet in that chain 2 space from our V-stitch. And now we're going to chain 5 again. And we're going to skip 3 double crochet on our shell, 1, 2, 3 in that 4th stitch, which is that center stitch. We're going to work single crochet, chain 2, single crochet right back in there. So we are starting our repeat, just creating that little nub, and we're going to chain 5, and we're going to single crochet in that V-stitch, chain 5, and we're just going to repeat this across. So we're skipping 3 double crochet, and then that center stitch we're working double crochet, chain 2, we're working single crochet, chain 2, single crochet all in that stitch, and we're just going to repeat that across. So I am going to do that and I will meet you back. I'll hope and pray that I have enough of this yarn to complete the last row here. Okay, so I am finishing up this last row here. So row 36. But again, you could work more rows of row 34 if you want a wider edging. So to finish up this row, and I have just enough yarn, like I'm winning yarn chicken, which is wonderful. So I've chained 5. I'm going to single crochet in that last V-stitch there, that chain 2 space. I'm going to chain 5 again. And then on top of that chain 3, I am going to work single crochet, chain 2, single crochet, and then I can cut my yarn. So I am going to cut that. So I just have a little bit left of this yarn. So this is what I have left. So I had just enough of this yarn. So then of course, when you're done, you will need to weave in your ends, and I am going to block this shawl to really open it up, but I think this edging is really pretty. It took me a while to figure it out, so I'm actually really happy with it. So I hope you enjoyed this project, and if you did, please like and subscribe, and thank you so much for watching.